Director of the Mayor's Office for Adult Literacy in Houston. And what I'm going to talk about today is the role of the Houston Public Library in the development of this. Yes.
I'm really sorry. You started before they started recording, so could you just go from the top real quick? I'm so sorry.
Very good, no problem. I will start from the top. Okay, so now that is recording. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm so pleased to be here at this conference. By the way, I think it's an extraordinary conference, and I like the way it has been organized. I am Federico Salas-Isnardi. I'm the director of the Mayor's Office for Adult Literacy in Houston, which is a division of the Houston Public Library. I'm going to talk about the role of the Houston Public Library in addressing low adult literacy in the city. And the title is, There is No Equity Without Literacy. I have heard many people use the word equity. It is today almost a necessity to have the word equity in the title of everything that you do. But I hope that as we progress through this very brief presentation, you will understand that we really believe that literacy is at the root of inequities, low literacy rather, is at the root of inequities in the city of Houston, all over the country, to be fair. So thank you to the leadership of the Houston Public Library for their support of the Mayor's Office for Adult Literacy and all of our initiatives. And if you were at the opening panel, you heard my boss, the executive director of the Houston Public Library, Dr. Rhea Brown Lawson. So in 2019, the mayor of the city of Houston created an office in partnership with the public library, an office for adult literacy that envisions a Houston where every individual can obtain the skills necessary to prosper and reach their full potential. So to be sure, there have been a number of efforts over the years to have the city be really active in the provision of services for adult literacy and in the provision of a mechanism for advocacy, for convening the field of adult literacy, for creating this mechanism by which adult literacy providers can be heard, their voices can be amplified. But over time, things change, and because of political reasons, the mayor decided to create a new office, the Mayor's Office for Adult Literacy. He turned around and asked the Houston Public Library for their leadership in managing, overseeing this new initiative. So we have the unique position right now of being a mayor's office, but being in the public library. And this is important because it has created a synergy that it is very important for all the public, for all the literacy providers in the city. So here you have our mission. Our aims. One is to enhance adult literacy, advocacy, and awareness. Second, to listen to the needs of literacy providers and adult learners. Third, to facilitate access to adult literacy programs for adults in Houston. And fourth, to support capacity building and help programs work together to improve learner outcomes. So this is what we are trying to do. Now, you may be asking yourselves, why did the mayor of Houston decide to create this office? And I will go over what I call the challenge of the city of Houston, the challenge that we are trying to answer by creating this office, that the mayor was trying to address by creating this office. But the first thing that I want to say is, when this office was created, a political decision was made, and it was made very clear that we, as the library, the Houston Public Library, were not going to be providing direct services and creating new classes, new adult literacy classes but rather the library will become a convener. The library will support my office as we are the convener for the whole adult literacy field. We don't want to have an impression. Now, the public library is a big institution. We have 42 different branches, so it's a big, powerful institution. We don't want the perception that the mayor gave the library the responsibility over the mayor's office for adult literacy, and now suddenly all the resources that would potentially go to the providers are going to the public library. So we are staying away from direct provision of services, and the library has become the convener. The library has become the leader of this advocacy building, this capacity building, this access that we need to give programs. I told Kerry earlier that I would like to take questions at the end, but if you have a question, you don't understand something that I said, or you're confused by any of my statements, please put it in the chat room, and Kerry will be following to make sure that I answer if I have to answer. And my computer doesn't want, okay. So I told you I would talk about the challenge. The challenge is that 1 in 3 adults in Harris County functions at the lower 2 levels of literacy, according to data based on the 2017 PIAC study. The PIAC study is a program for the International Assessment of Adult Competencies. Is based on a 2013 study that compared adults in the United States to adults in 23 other countries that belong to the OECD, the Organization for Economic Development and Cooperation of the United Nations. That is the 24 most developed countries in the world. If you're not familiar with PIAC, there you have the QR code that will take you to the study. And rather than sharing a bunch of website links, I'm just giving you the opportunity to go to the QR code if you want. So the challenge is 1 in 3, or 32% of our population, according to this international study, works at the lowest levels of literacy. So in Texas, it's 28%. In the nation, it's 22%. So if you see, while the nation is 22% of that is 1 in 5, roughly 1 in 5 adults in the United States, is at the lowest levels of literacy. For Houston, it's 1 in 3, which makes it worse. It's a bigger challenge. Now, what I will tell you, I don't have time to go in detail through the PIAC study, but I will tell you that if you go to the QR code that I shared, you will be able to see what is called the interactive literacy maps, where you can go and actually see your county and have your county fares in terms of literacy and also in terms of numeracy. Every single county in the United States is available, and the maps are interactive. Okay, that's all what I have time to say about this study. So this is the challenge that we have in Houston. What is it that we are doing? Well, we are doing through the office, the mayor's office for adult literacy, and with the support of the library, making the library resources, the leadership, the technical assistance. We are doing a lot. So we created the office, the mayor created the office with a goal of supporting access to necessary skills for all adults. We are focusing on functional literacy, and I will show you in a moment a graph or a graphic that shows you what we believe functional literacy is. We have our own definition. So we are working with functional literacy within 3 domains: the domains of digital literacy, health literacy, and financial literacy. And thus, we have completely reimagined the approach to what literacy is. And what I say often, and my staff also emphasize, is we are not talking about only reading and writing. Reading and writing are fundamental, of course, but in today's economy, we are talking about a literacy that includes the ability to use digital devices, the ability to understand health literacy. Digital medicine is becoming not just the thing of the future, it's becoming the thing of the present. Financial literacy is fundamental for people to be able to function in our society. Thus, we have reimagined what is it that we do when we talk about literacy? What is it what our office is responsible for? And because of that, we had to reimagine the literacy ecosystem. And when we reimagine what we call the ecosystem, then we had to bring not just the all partners to the table. And by all partners, I mean, we are working with a network. We call it the Houston Area Adult Literacy Collaborative, the network of about 40 literacy providers. But by reimagining what the ecosystem is, we have brought to the table, to the literacy table, to the planning table for literacy, a number of other partners, agencies that deal with the same adults that we deal with, but from another aspect. For example, the health department. For example, homeless services. For example, the food pantries. And I will show you what is it that we talk about when we talk about the literacy ecosystem. So we are working on a number of initiatives on digital health literacy, on mental health literacy, which we realized during the pandemic that it became a really very critical thing to do. We need more mental health literacy, not only among the adult learners who go into a literacy class, but we need information about mental health literacy for professionals, for librarians, for teachers, for anyone in the community who's dealing with adults, because it is important to help address issues of mental health. Now, we don't expect that adult literacy teachers, that librarians, that other people in the education arena will become experts in mental health. But what we are trying to do is to keep this conversation alive. We say, make sure that people are aware not only of the incidence of mental health challenges among our population, but also, very importantly, of the availability of resources. And the access to these resources is not possible if we don't have digital literacy. And that's how we see how things are coming together, how they intersect with each other. We also have an initiative, the same initiative on mental health is working on dyslexia and learning disabilities. We have an initiative on financial literacy, race and social justice, environmental literacy and water conservation, green jobs literacy. We have provided training and safe driving. So all of these things are things that are happening in our community. We are not in charge of water conservation. Definitely not. The library has nothing to do with water conservation, nor does the Office for Adult Literacy. But we need to be able to talk about these things, to learn about these things so that we can support our learners. It is our learners, the adults in our classroom, the ones that are going to be conserving water, the ones that are going to have those green jobs if we prepare them for the green economy, the ones that are both affected by social injustice, but also who can make a change, make a difference. So this is how we conceive the world of literacy. All of these things intersect. So we are changing the conversation. And by changing the conversation, what has happened is that we were featured in the news, in the front page of our Houston Chronicle for the first time in more than 35 years. Literacy is mentioned in public speeches by the mayor and by other other elected officials. And this is also a change. That is, The mayor talks about literacy when he talks in other events that have nothing to do, supposedly, nothing to do with literacy, but he sees this relation. And this is where the title of the presentation, there is no equity without literacy. If we conceive of literacy as intersecting every aspect of what we do in our community, if we see literacy as intersecting health and jobs and financial well-being and the family, then we can see that literacy is at the root of equity in our community. That is why we believe that there is no equity if there is no literacy. Our office has been featured in the national news. By the way, I did not say something important and something that I'm sure Dr. Lawson will want me to mention. We are the only office, mayor's office for adult literacy in the nation at this time. Now, there have been others, to be sure, there have been very important ones, including the one in Philadelphia that was our model, but they have reimagined the relationship of that program to the mayor. So at this time, we are the only mayor's office for adult literacy and the only one that is managed by a public library. And finally, literacy was made a funding priority by the mayor. So here you see the mayor being interviewed by ABC News for Good Morning America, and the front page of our Houston Chronicle, that is just to show you how important literacy has become to the conversation in the city. Here you have probably the most important thing that we have accomplished, and I know that I only have a few minutes to complete my conversation, but I will invite you to go to this website. Here you have also the QR code, and look at the Houston Adult Literacy Blueprint that we put together. The blueprint is the most important accomplishment so far. Last year, the mayor adopted a strategic plan that we wrote over 6 months in partnership with the Houston, the Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation that supported our efforts to do strategic planning for adult literacy for 15 years. In order to create this blueprint that has, I will show you a number of strategic goals, this is where I talk to you about the literacy ecosystem. Keeping the learners at the center of our planning, we invited, if you start at the very top, we invited, of course, the adult literacy providers and the faith-based institutions, but also community organizations, health and social services, government agencies, employers and the business community, and the whole education spectrum. We believe that all of these agencies, all of these partners have something to do in promoting literacy, promoting the importance of literacy in our community, and in helping us plan to address the challenges. So the vision for the blueprint is that all adults in Houston will have ready, equitable access to high-quality education to gain literacy skills and knowledge they need by 2036. We adopted it last year. That is a 15-year plan. We have 15 years to implement this plan. Some colleagues around the nation congratulated us in the fact that most offices, most cities don't do strategic long-term planning for adult literacy. And we are here publishing a document for planning for the next 15 years. And this is what I said, this is our definition of functional literacy. Functional literacy is, of course, reading and writing, computing and critical thinking, oral communication, but in 3 domains. We have to be able to do all of these fundamental things. Those are the fundamental skills, but they have to be in the context, in domains of digital literacy, health literacy, and financial literacy. And we are working with that. By the way, computing means numbers. I would like to change the word from computing to numeracy, really, because some people get confused with computers, and it's about computing, having numeracy. rather than about computers. But those are the 5 critical, fundamental skills that people have to have. And we came up with 7 goals. Of course, if you already went to the QR code for the blueprint, you have access to a lot more information, a number of pages, in fact, explaining how these goals are to be accomplished. Awareness in action, a complex system. So if you are involved in literacy, you will know that there are some programs that receive public funds through WIOA, the federal law that governs adult literacy and workforce training. But there are programs that are not receiving those funds, programs that are supported by community partnerships, by foundations, by businesses. We need to have a comprehensive system. We also are looking at multi-generational learning. Some of you will call it family literacy, but it's more about literacy through generations than only restricted to the family. Workforce skills and opportunities, digital resources that we need in this economy and in this post-pandemic world, access to a common data system, and then finally, we need the resources to make this plan sustainable. If we are going to address in the city, in the state, or in the nation, the challenges of adult literacy, we need a sustainable system. For each one of these plans, we have a number of metrics. We have a number of strategies for implementation. And what my staff and I are doing is anything that we do, whether it's an interview or initiating a new initiative with new partners, bringing new partners to the table. Everything that we do has to be tied to one of these goals. If it's not tied to one of these 7 goals, then we need to consider it very carefully. It's not that we will say no to a new initiative, but we need to be very, very clear how it serves at least one of these goals if we are going to proceed. Okay, and I came to the end. This is, again, the QR code for the Houston Literacy Blueprint. And the other one is the QR code for me. You can contact me. And I see that we have 10 questions in the chat room. So what I will do is stop sharing. I'm giving you one more moment if you still want to take a picture of either QR code. But now I will stop sharing. And I am all ears.
Thank you so much. There are lots of wonderful comments in the chat. Someone asked if they can have a copy of the PowerPoint.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Should they contact you for that?
Well, I understood that I was going to make it available through the conference. But
okay.
if the conference doesn't have a way for me to make it available, yes, since I already shared my email with all of you, feel free to contact me if the conference does not have a way to do it.
Okay, wonderful. 32 years ago, I actually volunteered as a literacy instructor at my local public library, and I helped teach an adult how to read. May I ask it was truly one of the best experiences of my professional life. Who recognized that this should be an office in the mayor's office? Because that gives your position so much credibility.
Yes. And honestly, it would not have happened if it weren't for the mayor's leadership. Who recognized it? Well, probably a combination of leaders. Our mayor and Dr. Maria Lawson-Brown, Brown-Lawson, and her deputy director, Nicole Robinson, who were instrumental not only in conceiving of the office, but also, as I said, even went to Philadelphia to make sure that, well, to visit the program in Philadelphia that actually closed a few months into the pandemic. I don't know if I answered your question, but who conceived it well? It's probably that conversation. The mayor knew that it had to happen. The old system, there was not an office of the mayor, but there was a commission for adult literacy that had ended for different reasons. And a new way of addressing these problems needed to be created.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, it was a very deliberate, well-planned activity. It wasn't just kind of thrown together over a week, you know what I?
Oh, no. I will tell you very honestly, it took more than 2.5 years of planning to get the office ready. And it took bringing other partners to the community, to the table, including funders, to make this happen. Now, the leadership of the mayor has been critical because without him, we would not have had the visits from ABC News and Good Morning America and the Chronicle and so forth. I've been interviewed by a number of TV stations about this issue, and it would not have happened if it wasn't because the mayor talks about it. Dr. Lawson talks about literacy. Dr. Lawson and Nicole Robinson have made it very, very clear that literacy belongs in the public libraries, that the public libraries have a role to play, not only in the provision of services, but again, in our case, the reimagining of the literacy conversation.
Wonderful. Does anyone else have any questions? At this point, you have answered all of them. We still do have 5 minutes. I'm interested in your background.
My background.
Yeah.
I came to this position after 32 years in adult literacy and adult basic education. I am originally from Argentina. I lived many years in Spain. I have a degree in applied linguistics. I am a second language learner. I arrived in the United States as an adult without English, so I can relate to having to learn a language, and devoted my life to adult education and adult literacy. I worked many years for a number of institutions at the local and state level before deciding to throw my hat in the ring and tell the mayor and the library that I was interested in this position.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay.
Let me say that I understand that half an hour is not enough and 5 minutes for questions is even less. I am open to continue this conversation offline. That's why I shared my information. And if you are interested in understanding more how your libraries can be involved or your cities can be involved, please contact me. My staff, Jackie Aguilera is my program manager, and myself, it's just 3 of us in the office at this point, hoping for more staff to come in soon. But we will be very happy to talk from different perspectives about how Houston went about doing this and what the role of your public library or your city could be.
It's
So
such
please
a
don't hesitate to
wonderful
contact me.
model that should be replicated in so many cities.
And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the chat myself. And just in case you did not get my email, I'm going to write it right now,
Wonderful.
because maybe not everybody was able to get my QR code. So here you have my email.
Wonderful.
Again, I'm more than happy to continue this conversation offline.
All right. I just want to thank you. I was not aware of this program, and you did an excellent job discussing how it came to be and the role and the data behind it. And it's just a wonderful example for all of us in other locations.
Yeah, and by the way, if you want, Carrie or anybody else, if you want information on the study, I am one of the few people in Houston that keeps talking about that PX study. And my colleague, Jackie Aguilera, she is my manager, has just posted in the chat room the link to the blueprint. I had showed you earlier the QR code, but if you prefer to click on that link, there it is.
Wonderful.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for inviting me to the conference. I am thrilled. And Jackie just shared the link, direct link to the skills map that will allow you to interact with the map and open your own county. Okay. It's past 4 o'clock, so I want people to be able to go to the next session.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you to our presenter and his
Thank
colleague,
you.
Jackie, and all of the attendees. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.